The starship Aurora glided silently through the vast darkness of space, its polished metal hull reflecting the distant light of nearby stars. Captain Elias Trent stood on the observation deck, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the swirling blues and greens of Scifi Prime below. It was a planet unlike any other he had seen, with skies that shimmered in soft violet hues and sprawling continents filled with dense forests and glimmering rivers. He had heard stories about this world, tales of an alien civilization, ancient beyond imagination, ruled by beings of immense intelligence and grace. Still, nothing had prepared him for the sight in front of him now. The mission had seemed routine at first. Make contact, observe, and establish diplomatic relations. But as the Aurora entered orbit, Trent felt the familiar tingle of both excitement and unease that came with encountering the unknown. He had led expeditions to countless worlds, but Scifi Prime carried a weight all its own. The Zetherians, he had been told, were proud, highly intelligent, and protective of their traditions. They rarely allowed humans close to their inner circles, and to be invited to the Queen's palace was an honor few humans had ever received. "Captain Trent," a voice said, breaking his reverie. Lieutenant Mara Chen, his second in command, approached, her expression careful but alert. Sensors show no unusual activity on the surface, but the planetary energy readings are intense. This place is unlike anything we've mapped. End quote. Trent nodded without turning. "It's beautiful," he said softly, "and dangerous, in ways we can't predict." He finally looked at Mara, a half-smile playing on his lips. "Let's hope the Queen enjoys human diplomacy as much as we enjoy her hospitality." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Or that she doesn't see us as pests," Trent chuckled, but his thoughts drifted back to the planet below. The palace was said to be a crystal structure, towering above the surface like a spire of light. Its walls shimmered with colors that shifted depending on the angle of the sunlight. And the tallest tower, where Queen Lyrathia resided, seemed almost to pierce the sky itself. It was a place of power and elegance, a symbol of the Zetherian civilization's longevity and sophistication. When the Aurora finally docked, the human crew was greeted by a group of Zetherian attendants. They moved with a grace that seemed almost unnatural, their multi-limbed forms flowing in perfect harmony. Their skin reflected the colors of their environment, blending seamlessly with the crystalline corridors of the palace. The humans, by contrast, felt clumsy and heavy, their movements rigid compared to the fluidity around them. Trent led his team through the grand halls, marveling at the intricate designs and glowing surfaces. Each room seemed to pulse with energy, the light bending in patterns that made the walls appear to breathe. The attendants guided them to the central chamber, where the Queen would meet them. Queen Lyrathia sat upon a throne carved from a single crystal, her presence commanding and serene. She had multiple limbs, each adorned with rings of precious metals, and her eyes glowed with an inner light that seemed to see beyond the physical world. Her skin shimmered like polished silver, reflecting the colors around her. Trent could feel the weight of her gaze, as if she were reading not just his body language, but his thoughts. "Welcome, humans," she said, her voice melodic and precise, yet carrying an authority that silenced the chamber. "I am Queen Lyrathia of Scifi Prime. You come seeking knowledge, and perhaps friendship. Let us see if our intentions align." Trent stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Your Majesty, I am Captain Elias Trent of the human starship Aurora. We come in peace, hoping to learn from your people and share what we can of ourselves." The Queen inclined her head, acknowledging his words. "Peace is a fragile thing, Captain Trent. It must be nurtured with understanding and respect. Follow me, and we shall begin." The humans were led to a hall where a grand banquet was prepared. The room was filled with Zetherian dignitaries, each observing the newcomers with keen interest. Among them, Trent noticed a young Zetherian woman, whose movements were lighter, more playful than the others. Her eyes, a deep violet, seemed to sparkle with curiosity, and she watched Trent with an intensity that made his heart skip a beat. "Who is she?" Mara whispered, leaning closer to Trent. "I don't know," he replied softly, "but she's not like the others." As the banquet began, cultural protocols were observed. Zytherians had a unique way of communicating respect, with gestures, sounds, and subtle movements that took humans time to interpret. Trent did his best to mimic them, aware that a single misstep could be seen as an insult. Yet, there was an ease in the presence of the young Zytherian woman. She smiled at him occasionally, and he found himself smiling back, feeling a connection he could not explain. After the formalities, Trent attempted to lighten the mood. Humans often relied on humor to bridge gaps, and he hoped it would translate across cultures. He gestured toward the young Zytherian, bowing in the human way and saying, "May I have this dance, my darling wife?" The words hung in the air. Silence fell over the chamber. The young Zytherian froze, her delicate limbs stilling in surprise. More shocking, the queen herself did not move. Her eyes widened, her body rigid with astonishment. It was a reaction Trent had not anticipated. What he meant as a joke, a playful gesture, had struck a chord he did not understand. For a moment, Trent's heart sank. He had committed a cultural mistake, one that could jeopardize the mission. He opened his mouth to explain, but the young Zytherian's voice stopped him. "I am human enough to know the meaning," she said softly, yet with an authority that silenced the entire room. "And yet, I find no offense in your words." The queen blinked, unable to hide her surprise. Her advisors whispered among themselves, casting glances at one another. Trent's mind raced. He had no idea what he had just unleashed. The rest of the evening continued, but the atmosphere had shifted. The queen was composed, but her eyes lingered on her daughter and Trent in a way that suggested both caution and curiosity. The young Zytherian, whose name Trent learned was Solara, moved among the guests with a newfound confidence. It was clear she had chosen to ignore convention, and in doing so, she had startled even her mother. Over the next few days, Trent and Solara found opportunities to speak privately. They shared stories of their worlds, laughing at misunderstandings and marveling at differences. Solara was fascinated by human ingenuity, by the way humans solved problems with creativity and resourcefulness. Trent, in turn, was captivated by Zytherian intellect, their grace, and the depth of their history. Meanwhile, the queen observed from a distance. Each time Trent and Solara were together, she felt a mix of admiration and anxiety. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Trent had shown patience, intelligence, and respect. Perhaps there was potential in this connection after all, but the palace was not without its tensions. Advisors and dignitaries whispered behind closed doors. Some questioned the prudence of allowing a human so close to the royal family. Others debated the implications of Solara's openness to Trent. Every movement, every gesture was scrutinized, as if the fate of the planet itself could hinge on a single interaction. Trent was unaware of the court's internal debates. He focused only on understanding Solara and her people, learning the subtle cues that signaled trust, curiosity, or caution. Each day brought new challenges, from deciphering Zytherian customs to navigating the delicate etiquette required in the palace. Yet through it all, he found himself drawn to Solara's laughter, her sharp mind, and her unshakable confidence. One evening, as the sun set over the crystalline towers of Zythera Prime, Trent and Solara walked along a balcony overlooking the gardens. The sky was painted with hues of violet and gold, the air filled with the scent of alien flora. For the first time, Trent allowed himself to speak freely. "I did not mean to offend your mother," he said. "I only meant it as a gesture. Something light-hearted. I did not know it would carry such weight." Solara smiled, her eyes reflecting the fading light. "Humans are straightforward," she said. "Your words are direct, without the hidden meanings we often carry. And yet, perhaps that is why I do not take offense. You speak from the heart." Trent felt a warmth he had not anticipated. There was courage in Solara's honesty, a willingness to see beyond tradition, and embrace understanding. He realized that if humans were to build alliances with species like the Zetherians, it would not be through force or cleverness alone, but through empathy, patience, and courage. As night fell, the palace glimmered under the light of Zythera Prime's twin moons. Trent knew the days ahead would be filled with challenges, from navigating cultural complexities to earning the trust of a cautious queen. Yet, for the first time, he felt a spark of hope. Perhaps humans could indeed bridge the divide between worlds not through conquest, but through connection. And as Solara turned to him with a playful smile, he realized that the moment he had spoken, those fateful words had set something extraordinary in motion. The queen had been startled, yes, but a seed had been planted, one that could grow into understanding, friendship, and perhaps even something more. The mission on Zythera Prime had begun as a diplomatic endeavor, but it had already become something deeper. The bond between human and Zetherian, tentative yet promising, would challenge traditions, reshape perceptions, and perhaps change the course of history itself. Captain Elias Trent took a deep breath, feeling the weight of possibility pressing upon him. The stars beyond Zythera Prime seemed brighter than ever, as if they too watched the unfolding story with anticipation. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that this was only the beginning. The palace was silent now, save for the gentle hum of alien energy and the soft footsteps of those walking the corridors. But within its walls, hearts and minds were already in motion. The arrival of humans, the boldness of one phrase, and the courage of one princess had begun a ripple that could spread across the galaxy. And Captain Trent, standing on that balcony under alien moons, understood that sometimes, even a single word spoken without thought could start a story greater than anyone could imagine. The days that followed the unexpected banquet were filled with a delicate tension that hung over the palace like a thin veil. Captain Elias Trent found himself navigating a world that seemed to operate on invisible rules, rules that he had to learn quickly if he was to survive and thrive on Zythera Prime. The queen, Lyrathia, maintained her regal composure in public, but in private, her advisors whispered endlessly about the implications of Trent's words to her daughter, Solara. Solara, for her part, moved through the palace with a quiet confidence. Her curiosity about humans had not dimmed. If anything, it had grown sharper. She had begun spending time with Trent under the guise of teaching him Zetherian customs, but their conversations often strayed into personal territory. They talked about their worlds, their experiences, and their dreams. Solara was fascinated by the human approach to problem-solving, which was less formal but surprisingly effective. Trent, meanwhile, admired her intelligence and courage. She had an uncommon boldness, a willingness to challenge tradition while still honoring it. One morning, Trent was summoned to the Queen's private chambers. He knew this could be dangerous. Being called alone by a ruler like Lyrathia could mean anything from a personal audience to a formal reprimand. He entered the chamber with measured steps, his posture respectful, but not submissive. "Captain Trent," the Queen said, her voice calm but carrying a weight that made him stand at attention. She was seated upon a crystalline chair, her limbs crossed in the manner of her people, eyes glowing faintly as she regarded him. "Your words at the banquet have caused quite a stir," Trent swallowed. "Your Majesty, I meant no offense. I only wished to lighten the moment." The Queen's gaze was sharp, piercing. "In human culture, perhaps it is jest. In Zetherian culture, it carries implications far beyond mere words. You called my daughter your wife, an action that, by our traditions, binds two beings in a pledge that is not easily broken." Trent hesitated. "I understand now that it was more serious than I realized. But I hope you also see that my intentions were not harmful. I respect your people, your customs, and your daughter." The Queen's eyes softened slightly, though her caution remained. "Respect is not enough, Captain. Words have power, and actions have consequences. You must understand that every movement, every phrase you speak here, is observed and weighed. One misstep could unravel the fragile peace between our peoples." Trent nodded solemnly. "I will be careful, Your Majesty. I wish only to learn and to honor your customs." The Queen inclined her head. "Very well. We shall observe. But understand this. Your relationship with my daughter is unusual, and it may attract both admiration and envy. Outside the chambers, the palace hummed with life. Advisors debated quietly in corners, wondering whether humans could truly be trusted. Some were intrigued by the potential alliance, seeing in Trent and Solara a bridge between worlds. Others were suspicious, claiming that a human so close to the royal family could disrupt centuries of tradition. Solara herself seemed untroubled by the palace gossip. She met Trent in the gardens that afternoon, a place filled with alien flora whose petals glimmered like tiny jewels in the soft light. The air smelled sweet and sharp at once, carrying a fragrance unlike anything Trent had encountered. "You're thinking too much," Solara said, noticing the furrow in his brow. She leaned against a crystalline railing, her eyes catching the sunlight as she regarded him. "You worry about what the queen thinks, about what the advisors think, about what everyone thinks. But what do you think?" Trent looked at her, surprised by the directness of the question. I want to understand your world. I want to be trusted. And I care about you." Solara's expression softened. "Then you are beginning to see why words matter. In our culture, meaning is layered. One phrase can carry honor, obligation, or even danger. But sometimes, a phrase can also carry trust and courage." Trent smiled faintly. "I suppose I've already said one of those words without understanding its weight." Solara laughed softly, a sound like wind through crystal. "Yes, and yet, you spoke honestly, from the heart. That is rare. Most beings would have stayed silent, cautious. You did not." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden disturbance. A messenger rushed through the garden, carrying urgent news. "Your Highness, Captain Trent," he called. "An energy fluctuation has been detected near the outer palace gates. It appears artificial." Solara's eyes narrowed. "Artificial? Then someone is tampering with our systems. This could be sabotage." Trent's training as a starship captain kicked in immediately. "Lead me to it. Let's assess the threat before it escalates." The two moved swiftly through the palace corridors, Solara guiding Trent past guards and security measures he could barely comprehend. The outer gates opened onto a wide plaza where crystalline towers reflected the sunlight. There, they found evidence of a disturbance. Security nodes had been disrupted, energy readings fluctuating wildly. "This was no accident," Solara said. "Someone wants to create fear or confusion, perhaps even to test us." Trent crouched beside a device, scanning the area with his portable sensor. "It's clever," he said. "Someone understands your systems well enough to manipulate them, but not perfectly. Whoever did this left traces. We can follow them." Solara's multiple limbs moved with practiced efficiency as she analyzed the readings. "Yes. And they lead to the western quadrant of the palace. We must be cautious. If it's an attempt to discredit humans or me, it could escalate quickly." They moved quietly, their steps synchronized despite the complexity of Solara's form. Trent admired her skill and calm under pressure. In that moment, he understood that courage and intelligence were inseparable for her people, and perhaps for all who survived in the galaxy. As they reached the western quadrant, they discovered a hidden chamber beneath the palace, its walls lined with crystalline panels that glowed faintly. Someone had been there recently, manipulating energy conduits and attempting to access secure data. Trent quickly noted the patterns, realizing that this was no ordinary intruder. The sabotage was subtle, precise, and clearly meant to avoid detection until it was too late. Solara frowned. "They are trying to undermine trust between humans and Zetherians. If the Queen knew we were involved, she might see it as a breach of protocol. We must handle this carefully." Trent nodded. "Then we fix it quietly. No alarms, no accusations. We expose the threat only when we understand it fully." Working together, they traced the sabotage to a small faction within the court. Advisors who opposed the presence of humans in the palace had attempted to create mistrust by manipulating security systems. Their goal was to make it appear that Trent had overstepped boundaries or caused a threat to the palace. When Solara and Trent presented their findings to the Queen, she listened intently, her expression unreadable. "So," she said finally, "these are those who fear change. They cling to tradition as a shield against progress. And yet, you, Captain Trent, and my daughter, have uncovered the truth, without raising alarms or sowing panic. That shows wisdom and restraint." Trent inclined his head. "Your Majesty, we seek understanding, not conflict. That is the way humans and Zetherians can work together through knowledge and trust, not fear." The Queen's glow softened, a sign of approval among her people. "Perhaps there is more to humans than I assumed. You have shown courage, intelligence, and respect for Zetherian life. These are qualities worthy of observation, and perhaps of trust." In the days that followed, Trent and Solara continued their collaboration. They repaired the disrupted systems, traced further irregularities, and strengthened the palace's defenses. Their teamwork created a quiet but undeniable bond between human and Zetherian, a bond that was noted by advisors and dignitaries alike. Yet, challenges remained. Some members of the court still viewed Trent with suspicion, while others were fascinated by his presence. Rumors spread of the human who dared call the princess his darling wife, and whispers carried through corridors filled with both admiration and jealousy. Solara ignored the gossip, but Trent could see the Queen watching her daughter with a mixture of concern and curiosity. One evening, Solara invited Trent to walk along the palace's upper terraces. The twin moons of Zethera Prime shone brightly, casting silver light over the crystalline towers. The air was filled with a soft hum, the energy of the palace blending with the gentle night breeze. "You have changed things here," Solara said, her voice carrying a mix of amusement and seriousness. "Not through force, not through words alone, but by showing that humans can act with honor and courage. Even the Queen is reconsidering her assumptions." Trent looked at her, feeling both pride and humility. "I only did what I thought was right. But you have shown me that understanding another culture requires more than observation. It requires empathy, courage, and openness. I've learned more from you than I expected." Solara smiled, a faint blush reflecting the moonlight. "Then perhaps you are beginning to understand why I did not take offense at your words at the banquet. Sometimes, meaning comes not from the rules, but from the intent behind them." Trent felt a warmth he had never experienced in diplomatic missions before. Here, on an alien world, he had found connection, trust, and even friendship, or perhaps something more with a being unlike any other. The palace, once intimidating and strange, now felt alive with possibility. As the night deepened, they stood side by side, gazing at the stars. Trent knew that the path ahead would be difficult, filled with political intrigue, cultural misunderstandings, and challenges neither human nor Zetherian could predict. Yet, he also knew that together, he and Solara could navigate those challenges. Their alliance was more than personal. It was a bridge between species, a symbol of what could be achieved when courage, intelligence, and respect prevailed. And somewhere deep within the palace, the Queen observed quietly, her mind turning over the events of the past days. Her initial shock had given way to careful consideration. Perhaps humans were not merely visitors, they were potential partners, capable of understanding and honoring the traditions of her people. The seed planted by Trent's words had begun to grow, promising a future that no one, not even the Queen, could have predicted. The days after the exposure of the sabotage were tense, but quietly productive. Captain Elias Trent and Solara continued their work, carefully repairing the palace systems and reinforcing security measures. The Queen, Lyrithea, watched them closely. While she remained calm in public, her mind was alive with questions about humans and the unusual bond developing between her daughter and the human captain. Some members of the court still whispered behind closed doors, disapproving of the closeness between Solara and Trent. They saw it as dangerous, even reckless, for a human to have such access to the royal family. Others, however, quietly admired the partnership, noting how human ingenuity and Zetherian skill complemented each other. The palace became a place of quiet tension, where every step was observed and every word carefully considered. One morning, Trent was summoned to the Queen's private chambers again. This time, there was no immediate tension in her voice when she spoke. Instead, she studied him with a calm curiosity that unsettled him more than anger ever had. "Captain Trent," she began, "you have proven yourself capable and cautious. Yet, there is something you do not yet understand. The balance of this court is delicate. Your presence, your words, your actions affect not only my daughter but all of Zythera Prime." Trent bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I understand. I only wish to honor your people and learn from them. I will continue to be careful." The Queen inclined her head. "Careful, yes, but careful alone is not enough. You must also be wise. Some within the court wish to undermine the alliance that is beginning to form. They see humans as intruders, and my daughter's openness as a weakness." "Be alert," Trent nodded. "I will be vigilant." Leaving the chamber, Trent felt the weight of her words. He understood that while some supported his and Solara's efforts, others were actively seeking to disrupt them. The palace was no longer merely a place of ceremony, it was a battlefield of subtle influence and hidden agendas. Solara found him later in the gardens, where the alien flowers glowed softly in the evening light. "You seem troubled," she said, observing the tension in his posture. "I am," Trent admitted. "The Queen warns of opposition in the court. Some advisors do not trust humans. Some may even try to create conflicts between us." Solara's eyes narrowed. "Then we must be prepared. Not with weapons, but with intelligence. We need to understand their motives before they can act." Over the next days, Trent and Solara began investigating quietly, observing the behavior of advisors and dignitaries, looking for patterns, listening to whispers, and analyzing unusual movements or decisions. Their work required patience and subtlety. Any misstep could reveal their intentions to the very people they were monitoring. During this time, the Queen remained a silent observer. She spoke little, but watched everything, noting how Trent and Solara collaborated, how they communicated, and how they responded under pressure. The more she observed, the more she realized that humans had qualities her people valued: ingenuity, courage, and the ability to adapt quickly to unexpected situations. Their investigation soon uncovered a faction of advisors who had been quietly plotting against the alliance between humans and Zetherians. They had orchestrated minor disturbances, manipulated information, and tried to create a sense of fear among the court. Their ultimate goal was to isolate Solara from influence, ensuring that no foreign presence could gain favor in the royal chambers. Trent and Solara devised a plan to expose the conspirators without alarming the rest of the palace. Using a combination of human technology and Zytherian observation techniques, they gathered undeniable evidence of the faction's actions. Every tampered system, every intercepted communication, and every manipulated report was carefully documented. When they finally presented the evidence to the Queen, Lyrathia listened with her usual calm demeanor. Her eyes, glowing softly in the crystalline light of her chamber, regarded both of them. "You have done well," she said. "Not only have you discovered the plot, but you have done so with care and precision. This is proof that humans can act with wisdom and integrity." Trent bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I could not have done it without Solara. She understands her people in ways I never could. Together, we uncovered the truth." The Queen's gaze softened. "Yes. And in doing so, you have shown qualities that are valued above all else: trust, courage, and intelligence. Perhaps, humans are not as different from us as I once believed." The revelation caused a ripple throughout the court. The conspirators were quietly removed from positions of influence, their plans foiled without public scandal. Other advisors began to observe Trent and Solara more closely, their attitudes shifting from suspicion to cautious respect. The Queen, once shocked by a single phrase, now contemplated the potential of humans as partners allies, and perhaps even friends. Solara and Trent, meanwhile, continued to strengthen their partnership. They spent long hours discussing strategies, observing court behavior, and learning from each other. Solara taught Trent about Zetherian customs, their intricate communication, and their approach to problem-solving. Trent shared human strategies, improvisation skills, and methods of quick decision-making. Each day brought new lessons and deeper understanding. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens under the twin moons of Zythera Prime, Trent spoke. "I never imagined that diplomacy could be so intense. Every word, every gesture, carries so much meaning here." Solara smiled, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "That is why understanding is so important. One phrase can create bonds, or sow distrust. You have learned quickly, and yet, you are not bound by fear. That is why you succeed where others would fail." Trent felt a surge of admiration for her. "And you? You are willing to stand against tradition, against the whispers of your own people, to work with me. That takes courage." Solara laughed softly. "Courage is necessary, yes. But so is trust. I trust you, Captain Trent. That is why I act openly, without hesitation. And that trust can change more than just our relationship. It can change the way humans and Zetherians see each other." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden disturbance in the palace. A small explosion of energy erupted near one of the outer towers, sending a shockwave through the corridors. Security alerts sounded, and palace guards rushed to the site. Trent and Solara moved quickly, assessing the situation. "This is deliberate," Solara said, analyzing the energy patterns. "Someone is testing our response. They want to create fear and uncertainty." Trent nodded. "Then we act carefully. We contain the threat, find the source, and expose them. No panic, no mistakes." Working together, they traced the energy spike to a hidden chamber where the conspirators had left a device designed to destabilize the palace's energy grid. Trent's human technology allowed him to identify and neutralize the device quickly, while Solara's Zetherian knowledge ensured that no permanent damage occurred. When they reported the incident to the Queen, she regarded them with a mixture of surprise and approval. "You have acted decisively, without causing unnecessary harm. That is wisdom beyond your years, Captain Trent. And Solara, you have shown judgment and courage that make me proud." For the first time since the banquet, the Queen smiled genuinely. Her initial shock had given way to admiration and cautious hope. Humans, she realized, were capable of qualities that complemented Zetherian society. They could be trusted allies, capable of acting with intelligence, empathy, and integrity. As the palace settled after the disturbance, Trent and Solara found a moment of quiet. They sat together in a secluded garden, watching the alien plants glow under the soft light of the moons. "Do you ever worry," Trent asked, "that this might be too much? That the court, the Queen, and the traditions of your people will be impossible to navigate?" Solara shook her head. "No. Challenges exist. Yes. But they are opportunities. Every difficulty we face teaches us something about ourselves, about each other, about how humans and Zetherians can work together. That is worth any risk." Trent looked at her, feeling a deep sense of respect and admiration. "I have never met anyone like you. Your courage, your intelligence, it inspires me." Solara smiled softly. "And you inspire me, Captain Trent. Your willingness to act, to learn, to adapt. It shows that humans are capable of greatness. That is why I trust you." The bond between them had grown stronger, not just through shared danger, but through mutual respect and understanding. Together, they had navigated political intrigue, exposed conspiracies, and strengthened the fragile alliance between humans and Zetherians. Yet, the story was far from over. The court would continue to test them. The Queen would continue to observe, and the galaxy beyond Zythera Prime would continue to challenge them in ways they could not yet imagine. But for now, Trent and Solara stood together, ready to face whatever came next. confident in their partnership and the trust they had built. And somewhere deep within the palace, Queen Larathia watched silently, her initial surprise replaced by cautious hope. The human who had called her daughter, "my darling wife," had proven himself capable of more than words. He had shown courage, intelligence, and integrity, qualities that could shape the future of her people and the relationship between their worlds. The palace of Scifi Prime shimmered in the light of twin moons as the days passed, calm but filled with a sense of anticipation. Captain Elias Trent moved through the halls with a steady focus, aware that each action he took could influence not only his own fate, but the delicate balance between humans and Zetherians. Solara walked beside him, her presence a constant reassurance. Together, they had navigated intrigue, danger, and misunderstandings. Yet the final challenge remained the approval of Queen Larathia and the full recognition of their bond, not just as companions, but as representatives of two worlds. The Queen had summoned Trent and Solara to her private chambers early one morning. The crystal walls reflected the soft light of the rising twin suns, filling the room with hues of violet and silver. The Queen sat upon her throne, her posture as regal as ever, but her eyes, glowing faintly, carried a depth of emotion Trent had never seen before. "Captain Trent," she began, her voice measured and calm, "you have shown courage, intelligence, and respect beyond expectation. You have faced challenges that would have overwhelmed most, yet you have acted with wisdom and care. And you, Solara, have shown discernment, bravery, and loyalty to your people, while forging a bond that transcends boundaries." Solara inclined her head, but Trent noticed the hint of pride in her eyes. The Queen continued, "The court has observed your actions, and the conspirators who sought to undermine trust have been exposed. You have demonstrated that understanding and cooperation can achieve what fear and suspicion cannot. You have proven that humans can be more than visitors. They can be partners." Trent felt a mix of relief and respect. "Your Majesty, it is an honor. I have learned more from you and your people than I could have imagined. My actions are guided by a desire to understand, to respect, and to build trust." The Queen's gaze softened further, "And that is why I am prepared to take a step that has never been taken before. A step that will change not only the future of my daughter, but also the future of Scifi Prime and the humans who now stand among us." Trent's pulse quickened. He did not yet understand the full weight of her words. Solara's eyes met his, a mixture of anticipation and reassurance. The Queen continued, "I formally acknowledge the bond between you, Trent, and my daughter, Solara. While unconventional by Zetherian standards, it symbolizes trust, respect, and the potential of unity between our peoples." The chamber was silent, the weight of history pressing upon them. Trent bowed deeply, feeling the gravity of the moment. "Your Majesty, I accept this honor with humility. I pledge to act with integrity and to honor both your daughter and your people." Solara stepped forward, her limbs moving with grace and confidence. "And I accept this as well. Our bond is not just personal. It is a bridge between humans and Zetherians. Together, we can demonstrate that cooperation and understanding can overcome even the oldest fears and traditions." The Queen regarded them with approval. "Then let the preparations begin. The ceremony will be held not only to celebrate your bond, but to honor the alliance it represents. It will be witnessed by all who hold power on Scifi Prime, and its significance will echo throughout the galaxy." In the days that followed, the palace became a place of preparation and quiet excitement. The human crew assisted where appropriate, working alongside Zetherian artisans to create a ceremony that honored both cultures. The palace halls were adorned with light-emitting crystals, reflecting colors that shifted with the movements of those who walked past. The gardens glowed with luminescent plants, and the air hummed softly with energy as if the planet itself recognized the importance of the event. Trent and Solara spent their time preparing not only for the ceremony but also for the challenges that would follow. They continued to observe the court, ensuring that lingering opposition would not disrupt the historic event. Advisors who had previously whispered against them now approached with cautious respect, offering assistance and advice. Even the most skeptical of the Queen's council seemed to recognize that the bond between human and Xetherian had proven its value. Finally, the day of the ceremony arrived. The grand hall of the palace, a place of immense crystalline beauty, was filled with dignitaries from across Zythera Prime. The queen presided from her throne, her glowing eyes reflecting pride and anticipation. Captain Trent and Solara stood side by side at the center of the hall, their presence commanding attention without arrogance. The ceremony began with traditional Xetherian rituals, intricate gestures and melodic sounds that had been observed and explained to Trent by Solara. He followed her guidance, moving carefully to honor the customs without losing the authenticity of his own human nature. The crowd watched in silence, some in awe, others in quiet approval. As the two cultures merged seamlessly in the celebration, Solara's voice rose in a melodic chant, welcoming both human and Xetherian witnesses to the union. Trent responded with words from human tradition, expressing respect, trust, and the commitment to partnership. Together, their voices carried across the hall, a bridge between worlds and a declaration of unity. The queen's approval was evident as she stood, her limbs extended gracefully. "Let it be known," she announced, her voice resonant, "that Captain Elias Trent of the human starship Aurora and Princess Solara of Zythera Prime have pledged their bond. This bond is not only personal but a symbol of the alliance between our peoples. From this day forward, humans and Xetherians shall work together in trust, respect, and mutual understanding." A ripple of approval swept through the audience. Applause, melodic harmonies, and soft hums filled the hall as the significance of the moment became clear. The bond was not just a union of two individuals but a representation of a new era for the galaxy. A partnership forged through courage, intelligence, and empathy. After the formal declarations, the ceremony transitioned into celebration. Humans and Xetherians mingled, exchanging ideas, laughter, and stories. The palace gardens became a place of shared wonder, as alien plants glowed in harmony with human lights and decorations. Music filled the air, a combination of Xetherian melodies and human rhythms that blended seamlessly. Trent found a moment to speak privately with Solara amidst the celebration. "I never imagined it would feel like this," he said softly. "Not just the ceremony but the acceptance, the recognition. It's beyond anything I expected." Solara smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the gardens. "You have done more than I could have hoped, Trent. You have shown that humans can act with honor, courage, and intelligence. That is why the Queen trusted you, why the court has accepted you, and why this moment exists." Trent took her hand, feeling the warmth and strength of her presence. "And I could not have done it without you. You guided me, trusted me, and showed me the way. Together, we've created something larger than ourselves. A bond between worlds." Solara nodded. "Yes, and now we must carry that responsibility forward. Our alliance is just beginning. There will be challenges, misunderstandings, and tests of trust. But we will face them together." As the celebration continued, the Queen watched from her throne, a mixture of pride and satisfaction in her expression. The initial shock that Trent had caused with a single phrase at the banquet had long since passed, replaced by admiration for the human's courage, intelligence, and integrity. She had witnessed firsthand the potential for humans and Xetherians to work together, to build a future founded on mutual respect and understanding. The night wore on, and the palace glowed with warmth, energy, and the joy of shared achievement. Stories of the ceremony would spread across Zythera Prime, inspiring others to embrace cooperation and trust. Even distant observers would recognize the significance of a human and a Xetherian princess standing together as equals, pledging loyalty and respect to each other and their peoples. Trent and Solara found themselves on a balcony overlooking the city, the twin moons reflecting off crystalline towers and the shimmering rivers below. The air was cool, filled with the scent of alien flora and the soft hum of energy from the planet itself. "We did it," Trent said quietly, a smile tugging at his lips. "Yes," Solara replied, her eyes meeting his. "And this is only the beginning. There will be challenges, but we have shown that courage, intelligence, and trust can overcome even the oldest fears. We have created a bridge between our worlds. Trent nodded, feeling a sense of peace and purpose he had never known. Then let's continue to build it, step by step, together. The Queen's voice, soft but carrying across the balcony, joined them. Step by step, yes. And with this bond, may humans and Zetherians walk together toward a future brighter than either could have imagined alone. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over the palace and gardens, Trent and Solara stood side by side, ready to face the future together. Their bond had begun with a simple word, a phrase spoken without thought, and had grown into a symbol of hope, unity, and the extraordinary potential of cooperation between species. And somewhere in the stars beyond Zythera Prime, the message of their alliance would travel. Humans and Zetherians had proven that understanding, courage, and intelligence could overcome fear, that bonds forged in trust could shape the destiny of worlds, and that even the smallest actions could ignite the spark of a new era. The palace hummed softly, alive with energy, laughter, and hope. A new chapter had begun, one where humans and Zetherians stood together, ready to face whatever the galaxy would bring. And at the heart of it all, Captain Elias Trent and Princess Solara knew that they had not only changed their own lives, but had also begun to change the course of history itself.